everybody. This is Chase Petiche, and I'm here with a Witchy Bitch bi-monthly message. And this week, I want to talk about fear and change, and what comes up when we are on the brink of change, when we are in the middle of change, and how we handle it. Because I'm going through some major changes these days, and I've noticed that sometimes I get kind of crazy, and then other times I get really grounded. And the times when I'm really grounded are the times that I open myself up to trust. Because I think that when we start to become more in tune with spirit and the divine and aligned, and we start being more guided by our intuition, and we start feeling that mysterious flow, and we start allowing our lives to be led by that versus everything being reasoned, understood, planned out, reasonable, right? When we start allowing our feelings and our gut to rule our world, to begin to guide us in our lives, it changes our perception of reality, and it puts us more in tune with our truth, right? But when we live in a world that isn't guided by that truth, that isn't aligned with that truth, and that is celebrated, reason is celebrated over everything else, right? You have to have A, B, and C worked out to know fully where you're going, to have everything planned out, to know why, and when you start being led by your intuition, you don't always have a why. You don't always have a reason. You just have a feeling. And we have never been taught in this culture to honor that. So, I think this is the crux of what I have been going through my entire life as a self-proclaimed witch, as a woman that is in tune with her intuition, but lives in a world that doesn't see it, that doesn't honor it, that doesn't value it. And to try to live in that space where you're honoring your intuition is really fucking hard, because you are met with everyone's fears that they're projecting onto you, and you're absorbing all of the fear of everyone around you. Because if we lived in a world where people were starting to be guided by their truth, we would live in a world where people were a lot happier, right? But I think because the almighty dollar is what rules our world, and the almighty dollar is really, the machine is kept in this system that is based in fear, that is based in rationality, that is based in reason, that is based in the why. And so it's always this, it's always this dance when you feel like you are on the brink of change, right? Where you feel inside of you that there is something that needs to shift, that there is something that isn't aligned with you anymore, that doesn't feel right. But you don't really know how you're going to get from A to B to C, right? You don't necessarily know. And yet, you open yourself up to trusting that guidance. I think that this is really the crux of beginning to live a life that is in alignment with your highest self, with spirit, with the mystery, and this is where we really begin to ground in our power, because we start to trust in an invisible force that has our best interest, that is our best interest, that is our higher self. We begin to trust that force. We begin to trust that force over all of the fear that says, no, how could you? Why should you? This is the wrong way, that you don't have enough money, this isn't the right thing, right? For whatever reason, whatever change you're making, because doesn't it always come down to security? right? Everything always comes down to security, which comes down to money, right? But when you start living a life that is more based in trust, that you have a fundamental belief that you are in alignment with your highest self, and because you are honoring that truth, this is something that I really do believe. I believe that when we are in alignment with our highest selves and we are honoring our truth, the universe comes up to meet us. It's like it comes up to assist us because it awards us for our bravery. It awards us for our courage. And this is really what it takes in this time to begin to turn the tide of this over-rational, non-feeling culture that is so disengaged with the truth of its emotion, with the empathy, with the intuition, with the natural world, with the spirit realm. To turn that tide, to begin to turn it towards that, it takes us singularly as individuals beginning to honor that within ourselves. And it is the single most difficult thing to do in life when you have been trained since day one to live in fear and to not express your authentic truth because, you might end up, who knows what could happen, You should, instead of, living your truth and your path with passion, do the thing that's reasonable. Do the thing that you will be supported by. And, I was just today, I was massaging a client of mine who was an old friend and a client, and he was talking about how he was in this band in the 90s that was like really big, and it was starting to get really big, and he was just at the point where they were kind of about to get really big, but he didn't have quite enough money to support himself, so he had to and he wanted to have more than just enough. So he took a full-time job working at a big corporation here, tech corporation, and he decided to quit the band. And he was just telling me today how he thinks that was like the worst decision of his life, and how that time period when he was creative in that space was the happiest point of his entire life. And, I often think about this, how we choose security over our passion, because it's hard to define what actually brings us the most happiness. Is it having security, or is it living a life where you are able to express the truth of your soul? Why do those have to be mutually exclusive is my question. It's like we live in this culture that is we have this idea that, in order to be an artist or to be a creative or to be somebody that's outside of the box, that you're always going to be, starving. And I think that's bullshit. It's bullshit. And it's a way to keep us enslaved to a system that is destroying the earth. And the only way out of it is for us to begin to honor ourselves in this time and space. I mean, things are different now. That's what he and I were discussing. I mean, things are different now. Things are not as centralized anymore. There is information in all places. People can make money in all different ways. 50% of America is self-employed. We live in an era of things are breaking down, but things are breaking through. And we live in an era of creativity. And this is a true time that if you feel that you are living a life that isn't in alignment with your highest self, begin to question that. Honor that. Think about that. It's like oftentimes, I ask myself, why am I here? What am I doing here on this planet? Like, there's so much pain. There's so much people struggle. There's so much, self-hatred. There's so much unhappiness. There's so much, and, I do fundamentally believe that we all come here for some reason. We have some calling. Some people it's meant to be a mother. Some people it's meant to be a father. Some people it's meant to be Oprah. Some people it's meant to be, Jeff Bezos. But as the collective culture begins to we are collectively evolving, and our consciousness is collectively evolving, and we're growing into a more empathic, heart-centered, intuitive, spirit-based culture that is leaving its head. The breakdown that is happening is that we're so disembodied that we have a Donald Trump for president, and we're destroying the Amazon, we're destroying the animals, we're destroying the earth. You can't go on like this. We have to start to feel what is happening all around us, but it starts with us feeling ourselves. What is honestly going on with ourselves. And that, my friends, is the most courageous act that any human can do. Because it's one thing to defend the rainforests, but it's another thing to defend your own soul. And when your whole life you have been taught that you have to provide for yourself, or provide for others, or live a life in a certain way in order to be seen as safe, or to be okay, in order to be deemed acceptable, to choose your own truth that is hidden below, way deep in the shadows, that has been thrown under the covers for so long, is the ultimate act of the spiritual warrior. And I want to celebrate anybody that is in the midst of discovering that truth and beginning to honor it and bow to it and see it, because that is the ultimate gift and act of self-love that you can ever truly give to yourself, is honoring the truth of your own soul, what the message, what the thing is that you want to express, what the thing is that you want to do, and allowing yourself to do it. Or at least starting to honor the truth of it, see it for what it is, and begin to take steps to think about how you're going to be able to do that. So that's my message for today. And I'm in the midst of my own big evolution and change. I'm getting ready to move from Seattle, Washington, gray Seattle, Washington, to Los Angeles, and it's a big move, and I have a lot of doubts, I have a lot of fears, but I am just trusting, because every bit of guidance I am getting is like the green flag of go. And so I'm coming up again and again against all of my own fears, because I have an established business here, I have an established life. But if I didn't follow that guidance, and I didn't make those moves because I was scared, I would be living a life that was a lie. And I have more integrity than that. But it's taking every bit of courage that I have, and it's taking every bit of power and spiritual warriorness that I have to face myself in this way. So I wanted to put that out there for all of you guys, and just know that you're not alone. We're in massive times of change on this planet. I can tell you, I think the empaths of the world, people who are sensitive, we are the ones that carry the brunt of the emotion. I say that we're like the air filters for this planet. We carry the emotion. We process it. And I think there's so much happening right now on the planet collectively, and we have to begin to honor the truth of our own souls. That is the only way forward. It's the only way out, and it's the only way to turn this tide. So I love you all. Blessings. And I'll see you soon.